Ayahuasca. Imagine you are severely depressed. You have been in the throes of grief for years. You have tried conventional medicines and therapies to help you, but have yet to find any proper relief. You have attempted yoga and meditation, but neither of them has helped. Then you hear about a retreat in the rainforest of Peru, where people with similar conditions have visited and come home feeling better than they have in years. Would you try it? Would you take that trip? Would you go and see a shaman and try a psychedelic concoction brewed from plants found in the jungle with the hopes of being cured of your mental illness? Come with me now as we explore the heady world of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is an ancient sacred medicine that was originally brewed deep in the Amazon rainforest and was used to heal and transform those who drank it. The brew has been used in religious rituals, where participants sing songs of healing, meditate, and talk about their intentions before drinking a cup of ayahuasca brew. It is also used in suicide prevention and to treat disabling depression and extreme grief. Ayahuasca is often used to treat PTSD, drug and alcohol addiction, panic disorders, anxiety, sleep disorders, stress, pain, and cancer symptoms. Ayahuasca is a psychoactive tea that affects the brain and causes people to experience mood and behavioral changes. The name ayahuasca comes from the Quechua language, where aya means soul or ancestors, and huasca means vine or rope. Ayahuasca can be translated as the vine of the soul. The brew has been popular in many regions of the Amazon for centuries, for both medical and spiritual reasons. It induces an introspective dreamlike experience that includes visions and memories of the past. Nowadays, visitors from all over the world travel to these regions to participate in ayahuasca rituals. Both of the plant ingredients in ayahuasca contain hallucinogenic properties. The leaves of the Psychotria viridis plant contain dimethyltryptamine or DMT, which is a potent psychedelic compound. The Banisteriopsis caapi vine contains beta-carbolines, which are MAO inhibitors or MAOIs. MAOIs prevent the body from breaking down DMT, which allows the psychedelic effects to materialize. The ayahuasca ceremony is an event in which people can receive treatment for the spirit and take part in their own healing. Ayahuasca ceremonies are held at night, so participants arrive early in the evening. Before the ceremony begins, the participants show respect for the healer who will lead the ceremony. The healers are called maestro curanderos. After introductions, the healer first prepares for the ceremony, including cleaning the space and tools with tobacco, blessings, and sacred prayers. The curanderos will light bundles of sacred tobacco and breathe the smoke into the corners of the area. They will make sure this cleaning smoke fills the room and bathes each of the participants in clouds of it, as a means of purifying them and their clothing before the ritual can start. The ceremony begins in total silence, as the curanderos call each participant up to drink a cup of ayahuasca. The participants come forward one at a time and receive their cup from the healer. The curanderos may also ask the participant what they wish to achieve from their spiritual journey. The participant then tells the healer precisely what they want to accomplish during their ayahuasca ceremony experience, before returning to their own space in the room. Each participant is given a comfortable place to sit or lie down within a common area, so they can be observed closely by a well-trained shaman. The participant is instructed to think and then drink. This encourages them to think about the results they wish to achieve before they consume the brew. The healer then drinks his own cup of ayahuasca once all the participants have taken their own. The lights are then extinguished as the curanderos begins to sing sacred songs. The ceremony continues in darkness, and a short time later, the ayahuasca medicine begins to take effect. Music and singing are essential parts of the ayahuasca healing ritual experience. Curanderos use songs called Icaros to help communicate with spirits and seek help from the spirit realm to aid in healing the participants. Each song has its own specific purpose. The healers open each ceremony with a song that invites the spirits to join the ceremony and assist in the healing. As the participants experience the effects of the drug's healing powers, the curandero continues to sing. The healer will change their songs to change the intensity level of the experience. Early in the ceremony, the experience can be unsettling as the participants' consciousness and awareness of themselves expands. Purging often accompanies this expansion of consciousness. Vomiting is a physical cleansing process that often helps create a better ability to heal the mind. Sometimes the vomiting can be intense and frequent, but symbolizes toxins and impurities of the soul leaving the physical body. Some participants will also experience diarrhea during the purging. The healer will often take on individual patients for healing sessions. Some of these individual healing sessions will be part of larger group ceremonies. They have many different types of healings for various disorders, and most have specific songs and chants to help with the recovery of the individual affliction. During this portion of the ceremony, some patients will feel pain as the healer tries to remove any negative energy from their body. The curanderos may smudge the patient by blowing smoke or scented liquid on them, or use their hands, tobacco, or aqua florida as tools to help banish negativity. The plant spirits guide the flow of energy and experiences of the people in the group through every session. Ayahuasca ceremonies often use a particular type of tobacco, known as mapacho, that curanderos breathe onto the patient to cleanse their spirits. This act of directing the smoke onto the patient by breath is called sople. The curanderos use mapacho sople to cleanse the space, the drinking cup, and the actual ayahuasca brew. Mapacho smoke is a powerful healing tool that aids in communication with other plant spirits. The ceremony, patients may experience hallucinations, during which they can explore their past and their hopes and fears. They can reconcile past traumas during the healing process. Patients claim they go into a dreamlike state where things seem hyper-realistic and they can deal with traumas with new clarity. According to reports, some people feel as if they have actually gone back in time and relived their childhood moments. Participants may experience physical discomfort, like sweating, vomiting, and diarrhea, during the purging phase of treatment. These disturbances range from mild to severe, depending on the concentration of the brew and the dosage given. The success of the treatment has a lot to do with the participants' willingness to allow themselves to fully let go of all negativity and feel the effects of the drug. Patients will often hallucinate wildly during the 4 to 6 hours in which the drug works in the body. It is quite common for them to see weird scenes of melting colors and lights. They may hear bizarre sounds or feel phantom touches on their body. While the ceremony goes on, they can communicate with each other and often interact with other participants in the ceremony, sometimes assisting each other's healing process by listening to each other's stories and crying together. An Icaro is then sung to close the healing circle and end the ceremony. The curandero blesses the patients and provides them with spiritual protection, as they may feel particularly vulnerable to spiritual attacks following the ceremony. At the end of the event, the lights are lit and a brief discussion is held before the participants are dismissed to go to sleep. Often these ceremonies are done at spa-like retreats, where they are repeated a few days in a row for maximum effect. During the day, the participants are often treated to spa services to provide relaxation and help them on their spiritual journey. Yoga, massages, clean eating diets, and group activities are all used to supplement the ayahuasca ceremony on a quest for whole body wellness. Ayahuasca has many benefits, but drinking the brew can lead to temporary but significant psychological and emotional distress. Overuse of ayahuasca can sometimes cause a dangerous condition called serotonin syndrome when used in conjunction with certain antidepressants like SSRIs. Great caution must be taken if you are on any SSRI medications and plan on attending an ayahuasca ceremony. Depending on the dosage, temporary effects of ayahuasca can include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sweating, tremors, vertigo, dizziness, overheating, sedation, autonomic instability, impaired motor function, and muscle spasms. It is unknown whether there are any long-term effects. Ayahuasca's use dates back more than 1,000 years. The preserved residue of ayahuasca ingredients and other various shamanic substances was discovered in caves in southwestern Bolivia in 2010. Spanish Christian missionaries in the late 16th century first encountered ayahuasca when they met indigenous Western Amazonian South Americans. Their earliest stories called it the work of the devil. In the 1950s, writer William S. Burroughs traveled through South America and read a paper by American biologist Richard Evans Schultz about ayahuasca. Burroughs subsequently sought out the drug in the hope that it would help cure his opiate addiction. Ayahuasca didn't become more widely known until the McKenna brothers published their experience in the Amazon in the book True Hallucinations. Dennis McKenna went on to study pharmacology, botany, and the chemistry of ayahuasca, and it subsequently became the subject of his master's thesis degree. Richard Evans Schultz gave permission for Claudio Naranjo to make a special canoe trip up the Amazon River to spend time with the South American Indians to learn about ayahuasca. Naranjo brought back samples of ayahuasca brew and published the first scientific paper describing the effects of its active ingredients. In Brazil, several modern religious sects have emerged, founded on the use of ayahuasca, the most famous of which are the Santo Daime and the Unio do Vegetal, or UDV. They are most commonly used in a shamanic or animistic context, or can be integrated with Christianity. Both União do Vegetal and Santo Daime now have members and congregations throughout the world. Europe and the United States of America have begun to see new religious groups form relating to an increase in the use of ayahuasca. Some Westerners have joined up with shamans in the Amazon basin forest regions to open healing retreats. These spa-like retreats claim to heal a host of disorders and cure mental and physical illnesses and allow participants spiritual communication. Recently, ayahuasca has been popularized by the author Wade Davis, One River, Chilean novelist Isabel Allende, author Jay Griffiths, Wild: An Elemental Journey, English novelist Martin Goodman in I Was Carlos Castaneda, radio personality Robin Quivers, writer Kira Salak, author Jeremy Narby, The Cosmic Serpent, American novelist Stephen Peck, and writer Paul Theroux, figures in a landscape, people and places. There are many different types of ayahuasca brews. The basics include taking sections of the Banisteriopsis caapi vine, which are then chopped, ground and boiled, either alone or with leaves from various other plants. These plants include Psychotria viridis, also known as chacruna, Diplopteris cabrirana, also known as chaliponga and chakrapanga, and Mimosa tenuiflora. Other ingredients might be added to the mixture, which can vary significantly from one shaman to another and between varying tribes. The resulting brew may contain the potent psychedelic drug DMT and MAO-inhibiting harmala alkaloids, which are needed to make DMT active when ingested orally. A ritual process in the making of traditional ayahuasca requires the brewer to pick the lower chacruna leaf at first light and then pray over it. The Banisteriopsis caapi vine must be meticulously scraped clean with wooden spoons and pounded with wooden mallets until it's turned into a fibrous pulp. It can be made with plants that do not contain DMT. Sometimes the Psychotria viridis is replaced with other plants, such as Justitia pectoralis, Brugmansia, or sacred tobacco, also known as mapacho. Sometimes it is left out without replacement at all. The brew has no set recipe and varies widely from one batch to the next. Since there are no recipes, the potency and psychoactive effects of the mixture are based mainly upon the skill of the shaman or brewer. Natural variations in the alkaloid content and profiles of the individual plants can also affect the final alkaloid concentrations in the brew. The cooking process may also modify these alkaloid profiles. The actual brewing process can take several hours, and often over a few days. The plant materials are often added individually at this stage to large pots of boiling water until they are reduced to about half of their initial volume. The individual brews are then combined and continued to reduce significantly. This combined brew is what is ingested by participants in the ayahuasca ceremony. Ayahuasca is extensively used as an aid to spiritual practice. It is used in non-traditional contexts by those who align themselves with the philosophies associated with the ayahuasca shamanism practices of the indigenous people of the Peruvian Amazon. While non-native users know the spiritual functions of ayahuasca, a lesser-known traditional usage focuses on the medicinal worth of ayahuasca. When ayahuasca is used as a medicine, it affects human consciousness for less than 6 hours, beginning about 30 minutes after drinking the brew and reaching its maximum effect within 2 hours. Some patients will experience significant psychological distress during their ayahuasca trip, including extreme paranoia. Ayahuasca can also have cardiovascular effects, and it can cause moderately increased blood pressure and heart rate. People with heart problems should exercise extreme caution before using ayahuasca. The psychedelic effects of ayahuasca may include auditory stimulation and disturbances like hearing musical voices in your head, or visual disturbances such as seeing floating colors or lights. There may be psychological effects that lead to a sense of euphoria, illumination, or even fear. The drug may cause intense vomiting and possibly diarrhea, known as la purga or the purge. Dietary preparation is often recommended to assist in the efficiency of the drug's healing properties. In the Amazon rainforest, purification of oneself before the administering of ayahuasca is usually advised. Purification is aided by abstaining from spicy, salty, heavily seasoned foods, excess fat, caffeine, citrus, or other acidic foods, and sex before, during, or after the ceremony. Curanderos, shamans, and experienced users advise against using ayahuasca when not under the direct supervision of one or more well-trained shamans. In some places, brujos, Spanish for witches, who pretend to be authentic shamans, try to get tourists to drink ayahuasca in their presence in order to steal their energy or power. In the late 20th century, the practice of taking ayahuasca began to spread across Europe and North America. In the Netherlands, churches were established that were affiliated with the Brazilian Santo Daime. A legal case was filed against two of the church leaders, Geraldine Feynman, the head of the Amsterdam Santo Daime community, and Hans Bogers, one of the founders of the Dutch Santo Daime community. Bogers and Feynman were charged with distributing DMT, which is a controlled substance. However, the prosecution was unable to prove that the use of ayahuasca by members of the congregation of Santo Daime constituted a threat to public health and order. Since it was deemed it didn't threaten the community at large, it did not warrant denying their rights to religious freedom under ECHR Article 9. The verdict of the Amsterdam District Court in 2001 set an important legal precedent. Since 2001, other religious groups have used ayahuasca in various forms without legal repercussions. People who have taken ayahuasca have reported having spiritual revelations and mystical experiences based upon their purpose on Earth, the fundamental nature of the universe, and how to be the best version of themselves they can be. This spiritual awakening has been described by many as being a near-death experience or rebirth. It is reported that users feel at one with the cosmos and gain a sense of oneness with spiritual dimensions, making contact with extra-dimensional beings, spirits, guides, and healing entities. Recent studies have found ayahuasca to interact explicitly with the visual cortex of the brain. In one study, the activity in the visual cortex was measured when they showed participants photographs, then measuring the activity again when the participants closed their eyes. In the control group, the visual cortex was considerably less active when the participants' eyes were closed than when they were actively looking at the photos. The group under the influence of ayahuasca and DMT had equally active visual cortexes whether their eyes were closed or looking at the photographs. The study suggests that ayahuasca activates a complex network of memory and vision, heightening the participants' internal reality. Author Don Jose Campos is among those who claim that people may experience a profound positive life change after consuming ayahuasca. There have been a few isolated deaths, reportedly linked to the use of ayahuasca. These deaths have most likely been due to unknown pre-existing heart conditions, drug interactions with antidepressants, interactions with recreational drugs or caffeine, nicotine use, or irresponsible or improper usage due to behavioral risks like drug abuse. There is the potential for significant antidepressant and anxiolytic effects with ayahuasca use. In a small placebo-controlled trial conducted in 2018, it was reported that a single dose of ayahuasca had a compelling impact in reducing symptoms of treatment-resistant depression. More definitively, statistically significant reductions of up to 82% were seen in depressive scores between the baseline readings and readings taken at 1, 7, and 21 days after treatment as measured by reliable medical scales. Lab studies have shown that specific compounds in ayahuasca may aid in producing new neurons in the hippocampus. Test subjects have been shown to perform better on memory tasks when using ayahuasca compared to the control group. There is hope that future research may lead to treatment for neurological and psychiatric disorders. Internationally, DMT is classified as a Schedule I drug under the Convention of Psychotropic Substances. The commentary on the Convention on Psychotropic Substances does note, however, that the plants containing DMT are not subject to international control. The cultivation of plants, from which psychotropic substances are obtained, is not controlled by the Vienna Convention. Neither the crown, fruit mescal button of the peyote cactus, nor the roots of the plant Mimosa hostilis, nor psilocybe mushrooms themselves are included in Schedule I, but only their respective principles: mescaline, DMT, and psilocin. A fax sent in 2001 from the Secretary of the International Narcotics Control Board to the Netherlands Ministry of Public Health goes on to state that consequently, preparations, for example decoctions, made of these plants, including ayahuasca, are not under international control and therefore not subject to any of the articles of the 1971 Convention. Despite the International Narcotics Control Board's 2001 confirmation that ayahuasca cannot be subject to drug control by international convention, in its 2010 annual report, the board recommended that individual governments should consider criminalizing ayahuasca at the national level. This recommendation by the INCB has been condemned as an attempt by the board to overstep its legitimate mandate. It has been called an attempt to violate human rights and the religious freedom of ceremonial ayahuasca users. Under American federal law, it is illegal to possess or consume DMT, which is classed as a Schedule I drug. However, certain religious groups have been legally permitted to drink ayahuasca. A court case allowing the União de Vegetal to export and use the tea for religious purposes in the United States was heard by the US Supreme Court on November 1, 2005. The decision, released on February 21, 2006, allowed the UDV to use the tea in its ceremonies pursuant to the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. In a similar case, an Ashland, Oregon-based Santo Daime church sued for their right to import and consume ayahuasca tea. In March 2009, US District Court Judge Panner ruled in favor of the Santo Daime, acknowledging its protection from prosecution under the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. In 2017, the Santo Daime Church Cheo de Montreal in Canada received a religious exemption, allowing them to use ayahuasca as a sacrament in their rituals. Religious use was legalized in Brazil in the mid-1980s after 2 official inquiries into the tea, which concluded that ayahuasca is not a recreational drug and has valid spiritual uses. In France in early 2005, Santo Daime won a court case, allowing them to use the tea. However, they were not allowed an exception for religious purposes, but the simple fact that they did not perform any chemical extractions to obtain pure DMT and harmala, and the plants used were not listed in the schedule. 4 months after the court victory, the common ingredients of ayahuasca and harmala were declared stupefiants, or narcotic Schedule I substances, making the tea and its ingredients illegal to use or possess. In June 2019, the city of Oakland in California decriminalized natural entheogens. The city council passed the resolution by a unanimous vote, ending the investigation and effectively decriminalizing the use and possession of entheogens derived from fungi or plants. The resolution states, "Practices with entheogenic plants have long existed and have been considered to be sacred to human cultures and human interrelationships with nature for thousands of years, and continue to be enhanced and improved to this day by religious and spiritual leaders, practicing professionals, mentors, and healers throughout the world, many of whom have been forced underground." In January 2020, Santa Cruz, California decriminalized natural entheogens, as did Ann Arbor, Michigan in September of the same year. Ayahuasca has also caused debate regarding the intellectual property protection of traditional knowledge. In 1986, the US Patent and Trademarks Office granted a patent on the ayahuasca vine Banisteriopsis caapi. It allowed this patent based on the assumption that ayahuasca's properties had not been previously described in writing. Several public interest groups objected, including the coordinating body of indigenous organizations of the Amazon Basin and the Coalition for Amazonian Peoples and Their Environment. In 1999, they brought a legal challenge to this patent, which had granted a private US citizen ownership of the knowledge of a plant that is well known and sacred to many indigenous peoples of the Amazon, and used by them in religious and healing ceremonies. Later that year, the PTO issued a decision rejecting the patent because the petitioner's arguments that the plant was not distinctive or novel were valid. However, the decision did not acknowledge the argument that the plant's religious or cultural values prohibited a patent. In 2001, after an appeal by the patent holder, the US Patent Office reinstated the patent. The law at the time did not allow a third party, such as COICA, to participate in that part of the re-examination process. The patent held by US entrepreneur Lauren Miller expired in 2003. When all is said and done, there must be something beneficial to ayahuasca for it to be used continuously for thousands of years to treat various mental ailments. Some who have tried it compare it to being near death repeatedly for hours at a time, only to come through to the other side with a new sense of clarity. Medical reviews have shown that ayahuasca can help in cases of severe depression and prolonged grief. Unlike many antidepressants, it would appear that the body doesn't build any tolerance to ayahuasca or its compounds, so there's little chance for any addiction to develop even with prolonged use. From a neuroscientific perspective, ayahuasca seems to affect the brain, similar to meditation, but on a grander scale. People who use ayahuasca seem more open to optimism. Their brains show less activity in areas of the brain which are often associated with depression and anxiety. According to certain studies, ayahuasca may increase a person's ability to be in a more mindful state. A small study established that taking ayahuasca once a week for 4 weeks proved as effective as an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction course in terms of increasing a person's acceptance. In this case, acceptance refers to non-judgmental attitudes and behaviors, which the researchers measured using a mindfulness score. However, the researchers advise that more studies with larger experiment sample sizes are needed to corroborate these findings. Other studies also support the use of ayahuasca to improve mindfulness. Research suggests the other psychedelic drugs can have similar effects, which increase the person's connection to the world around them. Psychedelic drugs are thought to boost creativity and psychological flexibility, so researchers believe there's a good reason to be excited about the potential for therapeutic uses for them in clinical settings, but more research is needed. Although many of the unpleasant side effects often experienced during an ayahuasca trip, such as diarrhea, vomiting, paranoia, and panic, are considered normal and only temporary, they can be highly distressing. Some people report having unhappy ayahuasca experiences, and there is no guarantee that you will react favorably and have a happy one. Moreover, ayahuasca can interact dangerously with many medications, including antidepressants, psychiatric medications, drugs used to control Parkinson's disease, cough medicines, weight loss medications, and more. People who have a history of psychiatric disorders, such as schizophrenia, should avoid ayahuasca, as taking it could worsen their symptoms and result in manic episodes. Additionally, taking ayahuasca can increase one's heart rate and blood pressure, resulting in dangerous side effects in people with heart conditions. Several deaths have been reported due to ayahuasca consumption, but they may have been caused by either the addition of other ingredients or too high a dose. Death has never been reported in any clinical trials on ayahuasca because the ingredients and dosage are monitored and controlled. Apart from these dangers, taking part in an ayahuasca ceremony means putting your life in the hands of the shaman because they are in charge of the ingredients that are added to the brew, as well as administering the proper dosage and then watching you closely for potentially life-threatening side effects. It is known that some ayahuasca retreats are run by untrained shamans who are not skilled in the preparation, dosing, and side effects of ayahuasca. This, of course, puts the participants in considerable danger. Although there have been promising results related to the health benefits of ayahuasca, these benefits were mainly related to clinical studies in which the preparation and dosing of the concoctions were carefully monitored and controlled. The treatment of psychological disorders such as depression and PTSD should only be offered by medical professionals. People living with these conditions should not seek symptomatic relief by taking part in ayahuasca ceremonies. Overall, more research is required to determine whether doctors can use ayahuasca in the future as a potential treatment for specific medical conditions. The use of ayahuasca has become increasingly popular in modern Western societies. It seems like drinking this ancient tea is becoming a popular pastime for people in cities like San Francisco and New York. People tend always to assume that natural means safe, but that isn't necessarily true. Along with the physical ayahuasca effects, there are also many psychological ones. When you use ayahuasca, you will undoubtedly experience hallucinations, and whilst people often see them as spiritual or healing experiences, it's important to know there is no way to know how you will react and what your experience will be like. This is the problem with so many hallucinogens. It doesn't matter how many stories you've read about the amazing and incredible experiences of ayahuasca and DMT, it is possible that you'll have a very different experience. Possibly a bad one. Some people say they felt intense anxiety, paranoia, and fear. Some say it brought up past traumas which were very unsettling. These are some of the emotions that therapists feel could have some psychiatric benefits, but if you're not in a safe environment with people who are trained in the use of the substance, it can be very dangerous. It can become a frightening experience that many people just aren't prepared for. It's also important to note that the psychological side effects can recur for several weeks after taking the drug. It's essential that people understand that with limited research and information, unregulated use, and the risks that come with hallucinogens in general, the use of ayahuasca isn't recommended. From the short-term effects when you're using the drug to the potential long-term side effects, there are far too many unknown variables. So, having heard some of the facts in this documentary, we ask you again, would you try it? Would you take that trip to the rainforests of Peru to seek healing and enlightenment? Would you go and see a shaman and try a psychedelic concoction brewed from plants found in the jungle with the hopes of being cured of your mental illness? Would you drink ayahuasca? We strongly advise you to think very carefully and do your research, especially if you have any health conditions or are taking any medications. But whatever you decide, we wish you the very best of luck and a very safe trip.